Alright, so in this video we're going to learn how to tape a rifle. So I have a standard 36-inch rifle. This is a rifle from King. As you can see, it has the detailing on the strap that says King Rifle. They have many different sizes. They have a 37.5 and also a 39. And you can also do this taping that I'm going to show you with any rifle. It doesn't matter the size. So let's go over the parts of the rifle first. So this is the butt of the rifle. Then we have the bolt. We have the bolt screws. There's two screws, which are long screws. We have the neck of the rifle. This is the swivel or hardware or clip. I've heard it several different things. I've heard it called several different things. And then we also have the tip of the rifle. Then from here, we have the strap, and then we have the strap screws. So that's kind of like the setup of your rifle. The first thing that you're going to do is you're going to remove your strap and you're going to remove your bolt and your screws. So let's go ahead and get started. Now with these screws, they don't put them on really tight. You can either use your nail to get it off, or you can use like a penny or a dime. So it's not too difficult. If you don't have any of those things and you're like retaping your rifle and it's on like pretty tight, then you can just use a flathead screwdriver. Go ahead and remove the strap here. All right. And then for this video, you're gonna need a roll of white electrical tape, a roll of black electrical tape, strapping tape, which is the kind of like shipping tape that has the lines on it, and then a screwdriver and scissors. So next thing that we're gonna do is unscrew the bolt. And you just use a standard Phillips head screwdriver, nothing crazy. For the screws, I know sometimes like if your bolt breaks, then your screw might like fall out or whatever. You can just go down to any local hardware store and get another screw to put in your bolt. I would just take, if you have a screw, I would just take it as a reference for size and for the shape. And then these bolts are kind of hard to get off, so I like to push it and it comes off nice and easily. So we have that all done. My strap is off, so I have a nice air rifle. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to start at the tip of my rifle. I'm going to take my strapping tape and I'm going to have I would say like about a 3 or 4 inch section. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it at the top of my rifle here, and I'm going to put it long ways. So looks like this. What you're going to do from here is I like to fold the edges first, and then I like to fold the flaps down. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do the same thing, but I'm gonna make like a cross. So I'm gonna do it on the opposite side of what we just did. And then I'm gonna go and secure the sides and then secure the flaps. And if you're a beginner, I suggest like doing that 2 more times. That way that you have some really good support. So that if you drop, you know, and something happens, that it'll absorb the shock. So, but if you're not a beginner, you don't really need that much strapping tape. So now what we're gonna do is we are going to put this right up against our rifle, like so. We're gonna loop it around 1 time. And then from here, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna angle it down slightly. And it's okay if your like tape has bumps in it. It's not too serious. If you're a super perfectionist, you can cut a little slit with scissors like that, and then you can angle your tape where you want it to go so it lays flatter. So you're gonna do that, and you're just gonna roll that tape down. Once it gets to about 3 inches or so, I stop, and I just take that little tail part and tuck it in. So that top part is good to go. The next thing that I like to do is working down. I like to take a piece that's about 2 inches, break it in half, and I like to wrap it around this little curve part right here. And what that does is it just helps reinforce it and absorb the shock, because typically if you're going to crack your rifle, it's going to be from this area. The next thing that I like to do is take a longer strip, break it in half, like that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this around my, my swivel to reinforce this area. And pretty much what we're doing is any area that has like significant stress due to like screws being put in or anything like that, you just want to make sure that you're wrapping that around. So we've done this section of the rifle right here. We did a piece up and a piece to the side, and then we looped it around several times. We've done the swivel, looped it around a couple times. We've done this little bit right here, looped it around a couple times. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to do the middle section. So I take my tape, and I'm going to start about 3 inches from where this little lip is. So as like a marker, it would be like right there. So it's about 3 inches, or like if you put your hand on the rifle and you put your pinky finger just at this little upper lip section, you want it just outside of where your index finger is. And then from here, we're just gonna wrap it around. And it's okay if it overlaps a lot. This is the section that takes the most beating, so it's okay if it overlaps. And I just loop it around as best as I can. And I try to keep it nice and flat in this area. I know some people don't mind it being a little bit messy because it provides like a really good grip. So it's really just on your preference. And then for this middle section, because it can get tricky, I like to cut away the excess right here and just like cut this little chunk off. And then any bits that are remaining, what I like to do is I just like to fold them in. So go to the side, and then fold the top part down. And then from here, we continue to go around. Sorry if you guys are hearing any of the bells or anything. We're in school right now. So I loop it around. And it's okay if you start to get gaps between the strapping tape and the rifle. It kind of gets at an awkward angle at a certain point. So I like to, when I get past the flat section and I get in towards the neck, I like to stop, make sure this is really good. And then I find the area, because I have like an area right here where the tape kind of split and I can see the wood of the rifle. So I'm gonna overlap it and put some tape down, making sure that it's nice and covered. And then I like to do another layer. And you want to make sure that whenever you're doing this neck area that you're not going too far down, just because sometimes if you go too far down, it can waste it a little bit. And then I'm going to take this extra strip that we had from before, and I'm just going to put this around the neck, because the neck is another area where it tends to crack easily. So this is just a way for me to reinforce my rifle. So we have done the tip of the rifle, we've done the swivel section, and we've done the midsection. Now, if you can see, I stop about right here. So if I were at like a right flat, it would be just past where my hand is on the neck. And now we're gonna move to the butt of the rifle. So a lot of people do this different ways. Some people like to do like 3 long strips. So you would have a corner piece, you would have another corner piece, and then you would have a top piece. The other way that you can do it is you could do small strips across like this, and then a long piece. That's the version that I'm gonna do, just because it makes things easier. So I'm gonna say 4 small 2-inch pieces, and then I'm gonna get 1 long piece that is gonna cover the butt of the rifle, and then it's gonna spill over about 2 inches. So I'm just taking this and I am pulling this across like that. I'm gonna fold the edges, and then the top part I'm folding over. And so these pieces are gonna definitely overlap. The reason why I'm doing this technique with my strapping tape is because it just gives you a little bit more support on your butt, so that if you drop, you aren't having like any issues with the little like pad that's stapled on here kind of degrading. So, and then we're gonna take this long piece and we are going to evenly distribute it on the sides, just like this. That's what that looks like. And then I'm gonna fold the sides down. And if you look at it and it kind of overlaps on the swivel, that's okay. You can just cut it, make it fit to how you like. Taping is really like, it's one of those things where everyone does it a little bit differently. So it's not a big deal. You just have to figure out what's good for you. And then fold the edges, kind of like a present, and then fold that little piece over. So we have our butt. As you can see, it is fully taped on the bottom part of it. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my strapping tape, and I like to do this in 2 separate pieces just because if I try to go over top of the swivel here, it can get a little difficult. So I like to take this and put this right up against the edge of my butt, lay it down flat, tuck the little side there, and go around, and then I like to cut it off and fold this part over. Now I like to take the swivel and I like to take this little square part and flip it up. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna go underneath, right up against the swivel. And it's okay if there's wrinkles. A technique that I use, especially on the butt, is if there's some excess right here, what I like to do is I like to kind of lay it down and create this little bump. You can see that there's a little bump here, and then I just fold it over, and then we are gonna cut. That way it's nice and flat. And I mean, you're gonna tape back over this anyways, so even if you do have like a little section that's lifted, you can tape over it, so it should be fine. So these are the like key areas of the rifle that you're gonna tape with strapping tape. The next thing that I like to do is I like to tape my bolt. Now, I do this a little bit differently from some other people. The reason why I like to tape my bolt is for those times where you ever have a student or a member who drops their rifle and drops it on their bolt, a lot of times what happens is this can break. So putting electrical tape on there kind of absorbs the shock and it makes it nice and easy. So I like to take the small part of it first, and I like to go and put the tape on the edge and kind of wrap it around this little bit right here, just so that this little edge is protected. So I just wrapped my tape around this little edge right here. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to start at the very end. I'm gonna leave a little bit of room for the tape to curl over the edge right here. And I'm gonna stretch it. That way it lays nice and flat, like that. And then from here, what I'm gonna do is I'm just going to overlap it, I would say like a couple centimeters, nothing crazy, and just loop it around. And it's okay if the tape gets on the like back of the bolt. It doesn't have to be exposed. I mean, you're gonna put it on the rifle anyways. So I loop it around. And when I get down to these ridges of that little part, I like to make sure it's nice and stretched. That way it looks really cohesive. But that little piece that we did on the end here, it meets up really nicely with this top layer of tape. And that's kind of why I do that, just so that everything is protected. And then I like to go back around to just really reinforce everything that I just did. And then I angle it down to this 45 degree, and then I just cut it so that the excess tape right here that's left over is just tucked on the bottom here, and that part's going to be underneath the rifle anyways. So there we go, we just taped our bolt, and this is a matte black tape. Scotch and 3M, in my opinion, have the best brands of tape for electrical tape, but it's really up to you. So what we're gonna do is we are gonna move on to our electrical tape. And so similarly to what we did with our strapping tape, you're pretty much gonna do the same thing with electrical tape. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take two small, about 2-inch pieces, nothing crazy, and I'm gonna put the two small pieces across the very tip of my rifle, and it pretty much fits exactly 2 pieces. So I put those on the side, and if you look, the tip of my rifle is covered. Then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take 2 pieces. I'm gonna do the same thing, but I'm gonna do that and make it like a cross. So it's gonna go from the bottom to the top instead of side to side. So you should have 2 pieces across like this, and then 2 pieces top to bottom like that. So you basically create a cross. Now from here, I'm gonna start at the very top of my rifle. I'm gonna do 1 solid loop around, and then I'm gonna angle my tape down, and I'm gonna make sure that I'm not overlapping too much. You wanna overlap it like a centimeter or 2, and then I like to do a loop at the bottom, and then from here you just give it a little cut and fold that over. You're gonna do the same thing with this little section right here with your swivel. So I'm looping it around, and I also like to flip this little square part and go just on the other side to just give it another layer of protection. And then we're gonna cut it. There we go. And then for the bolt, I do similarly to what we did with the strapping tape. I take 2 pieces that are about 2 inches, 2 to 3, and I put it on this little groove right here. So I make a low 45 angle, and then I put the second piece up higher, And this one goes more across. So if you can see, this one goes down at the 45 and this one goes more across. That way this little groove is protected. Then from here, I'm gonna go just outside of my strapping tape. I do one loop around and then I angle it. And you wanna make sure that it's overlapping a little bit, but again, you don't wanna overlap at a huge, like a big, a ton is what I was trying to say. So you loop that around. And when you get like really comfortable with this, you can definitely tape a rifle in like 5 to 10 minutes. So for this, I kind of stretch the tape and let it fall over the little lip. And then I just continue going, just making sure that all the places that I had taped with strapping tape are completely covered. And the best part about tape is that, you know, if you notice a mess up, you can just kind of rewind and undo the tape a little bit, and then you can retape it. So just gonna bring this around. And then you want to make sure that you get it nice and taped around the neck of your rifle. And there's gonna be some creasing, like that's just normal, but honestly that texture is gonna help you, especially if you get into a situation where like you have sweaty hands or the weather is like pretty like damp. And then you're gonna loop it around at the bottom just like we did and give it a good cut. And then there's a couple different ways that you can do the end, kind of like we did with the rifle before. You can do the small strips, like multiple small strips. I think it's about like 6 to 8 strips that you can do, little strips across, and then you can do like a long strip across the corner, and then the top. So that's what we're gonna, that's what we're gonna do. But if you don't want to do that, then you can just do the corner pieces like long style and then do the pieces across the middle of it. This again just adds like additional support. And you're gonna have like these little overlaps, and that is totally okay. So for me, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. For me, I'm doing 8 pieces. Just making sure that I'm really getting those edges. Like that. And then I'm gonna take a long strip and I'm gonna go on the very edge, the corner of the rifle. And what I'm doing is I'm gonna make a crisscross. So on the top and on the bottom rifle, I'm making a nice little crisscross moment. That way those edges get an additional layer of support. And again, this doesn't have to look the prettiest. If you have OCD and, or you're a perfectionist, then cool, but you just have to make it look presentable. And then we're gonna take a section we're gonna take 2 longer pieces and go across the middle of the rifle on the butt. So we have a lot of tape on the butt, but honestly that's okay because, like, again, if you drop it for whatever reason, it's just gonna help make sure that your stuff doesn't like disintegrate. It can make it like a little bit more butt heavy, but honestly, like, it's not that big of a deal. And then from here, we're gonna take this piece, we're gonna loop it around the very edge of the rifle, and then we're gonna angle it down with having a slight overlap. Once I get to the swivel, I'm gonna tape over the swivel just a little bit, and then I'm gonna flip that square piece up like we did before. Oop. And then just gonna continue going around. And then I'm gonna make a loop and I'm gonna cut it. There you go. So right here, we have about 2 fists worth of tape. We have a fist worth of tape. We have about a fist and a little bit past. We go all the way down here. This is a fist and a little bit past. That's how you can gauge that. And then down here, if I were to like go in like toss technique and my fingers were here, it would be like a fist and a half as well. So now what we can do is we can put our bolts back on, and I pretty much just find where the screws are. Sometimes I stab a little hole through the tape just to make life easier. Get those suckers in. And then I just screw that on. It's definitely a lot easier with the power drill, but you also run the risk of like stripping your screws, or if you put it in too tight, actually cracking the wood. So you just have to be careful if you are choosing to use like a power tool. So we are almost done. After this, we just have the strap. You want to make sure that they're nice and tight. It's okay if the tape kind of swirls around a little bit. That's like, it happens. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do, so for the king straps, let's see, how do I want to do this? What I'm gonna do is I am gonna put my strap on, and so from here I have this fold over. I have a hole. I have 1, 2, 3 holes, and that 3rd hole is where that little piece, the screw is gonna go. So I put the strap screw in, and then I just go ahead and tighten that around with my finger. I never like to go past 2 holes and then the strap screw, just because sometimes if you are going to toss and the screw can be there, and it can kind of be like a deterrent because you don't get the best grip of your rifle. So once I put my strap screws in, I take that black tape that we had before and I just make sure to cover it. And what that does is it just helps keep it in place, so if there's any loosening, your strap screw doesn't fly away, because those things are little and they definitely run away easily. And then from here, I'm gonna loop this in the top section. I'm gonna go ahead and put my other screw in. And I find it easier to tighten the bottom as opposed to the top. Because like we talked about before, when you tighten the top section, the more, like, the closer your strap screw gets to where your hand is going to be for when you toss, like, you're just going to hinder your grip. Some people like that though, because they can feel where their hand placement is supposed to be, kind of like a cheat tape. It really just is, you know, dependent on you. And then we go ahead and take another piece of black tape and we just put it around. Like that. And then the last thing that I like to do is I like to curl my strap. So I like to kind of curl it towards the rifle. And what this does is it kind of just like breaks up the leather in your strap. And it just makes it easier for you when you're catching, because new straps, that leather is hard. So I just like to curl it towards. And then if it's tight, give it a little pull. But you don't want to pull it too much because you could actually like loosen up your hardware. And your strap is going to be tight to begin with, but it's going to loosen up over time. So it's not going to be that big of a deal. So this is like a tight strap, you can definitely tell, but it's good. And so we have our rifle completely taped. And yeah, let me know in the section below if you have any questions or anything like that about how to tape your rifle. Hopefully this answers any questions that you had. I know it's a little bright and I'm taping with white, but I hope you were able to understand everything that was going on, and I hope that this was really informative for you. But yeah, that's how you tape a rifle.